Today we're going to go into the biggest conspiracy theory the Beatles ever had and still exists to this day. The Paul is dead conspiracy theory. And stick around to the end of this video if you'd like to see some of my own comparison videos. And let me know what you think in the comments below. The theory started in 1966, although it didn't gain popularity until 1969 when Paul retreated to Scotland after the birth of his first child, Mary. There were various clues, and supposed evidence suggests that Paul McCartney of the Beatles had died and been replaced by a look-alike. The theory gained widespread attention after a Detroit radio DJ claimed to have received a phone call from a listener who pointed out clues in the Beatles songs and album covers. These clues included hidden messages when playing songs backwards, references to car crashes and lyrics, and the changes in Paul's appearance and behavior. Fans began to scrutinize the album covers, artworks, and lyrics, looking for further clues to support their theory. Despite Paul McCartney's denial of the rumors and the Beatles' reluctance to address the conspiracy, it continued to spread through fan communities and media outlets. The theory was even referenced in a 1969 Life magazine article, further fueling speculation. In the years following the initial rumors, various books, documentaries, and articles have been published exploring the Paul is dead theory and examining the supposed evidence. Some believers have continued to argue that the real Paul McCartney passed away in 1966 and was replaced by a look-alike, while others dismissed the theory as a hoax or urban legend. Today, the Paul is dead conspiracy theory remains a topic of interest for Beatles fans and conspiracy theories alike, with ongoing debates and discussions about the validity of the evidence and the possibility of the cover-up. Despite the passing of time and Paul McCartney's continued presence in the music industry, the rumors and speculation surrounding his alleged death continue to captivate the imagination of many. Let's delve into the intriguing world of the Paul is dead conspiracy theory surrounding Paul McCartney of the Beatles. It all started with a rumor that began circulating in 1966, but it gained significant popularity in September 1969 after reports on an American college campus. According to this theory, Paul McCartney died in a car crash in 1966 and was secretly replaced by a look-alike. The initial rumors were fueled by McCartney's moped accident in December 1965. Yes, Paul McCartney had a moped accident. On December 26, 1965, while visiting his family in Liverpool, McCartney fell from his moped and chipped his front tooth. He also cut his front lip, which left a scar. He was riding along with his friend Tara Browne when he got distracted by the full moon. Some say he was under the influence of marijuana. He lost control of his moped and hit the pavement face first. After the accident, he went to his cousin Bet's house. Initially, she thought he was joking about the accident, but she was shocked when she saw his face. A doctor friend of Bet's came over and stitched up McCartney's lip. The doctor had to rethread the needle and stitch it again because the thread came out after the first attempt. Interestingly, this accident led McCartney to grow a mustache to cover his scar on his upper lip. The mustache became an iconic part of the Beatles' look and also became one of the key clues in the Paul is dead myth. So how did Paul die supposedly? Well, as you heard above, in a car crash in 1966. But we'll get into details of this further down the line. First, let's look into the possibilities of who took his place: William Campbell or Billy Shears. According to the theory, McCartney died in a car crash, and to spare the public from grief, the surviving Beatles replaced him with a look-alike. This replacement was sometimes identified as William Campbell or Billy Shears. The stand-in was allegedly an orphan from Edinburgh named William Campbell, who the Beatles then trained to impersonate McCartney. Some versions of the theory also suggest that the man's name was Billy Shepherd, later abbreviated to Billy Shears, the winner of the McCartney look-alike contest. Another theory suggests that the surviving Beatles held a contest to find a McCartney doppelganger. The winner of the contest supposedly became the new Paul McCartney. According to the Paul is dead conspiracy theory, The winner of the Paul McCartney look-alike contest was a man named William Campbell, who was allegedly a police officer from Toronto. This theory suggests that after the supposed death of Paul McCartney in 1966, the Beatles replaced him with Campbell, who won the McCartney look-alike contest. Campbell supposedly underwent plastic surgery and filled in for McCartney, appearing in all subsequent Beatle photo shoots. Vivian Stanshall. Vivian Stanshall, a talented musician and member of the Bonzo Dog Do Band, played a pivotal role in this saga. But here's the twist. Vivian Stanshall himself supposedly met a similar fate and was also replaced by the same person who took over for Paul McCartney after his alleged demise. So what's the evidence with Vivian Stanshall? Well, it's a curious mix of forensic details, including voice prints, height comparisons, earlobe particularities, dangling, not attached, that kind of stuff, and even the shape of their widow's peaks post-1966. Vivian Stanshall is actually high on the list of people that have taken over for the original Paul McCartney. So I did say we would get back to that car accident that everybody thinks that Paul McCartney died in. Well, here we are. Tara Browne. Tara Browne was a London-based Irish socialite and the heir to Guinness fortune. He was born on March 4th, 1945, in Dublin, Ireland. Browne was a member of the swinging London's counterculture of the 1960s. He was known for his wild parties and flamboyant lifestyle. He had close relationships with people like Mick Jagger, Brian Jones, and Paul McCartney. Browne and Paul McCartney were actually very good friends. They ran in the same circle of artist types, including John Dunbar, Barry Miles, and Robert Fraser. Browne even induced Paul McCartney's first LSD trip in 1966 at Browne's home in Belgrave. On December 17, 1966, Browne was driving with his girlfriend, model Suki Potier, in his Lotus Ellen through South Kensington at a high speed. He was under the influence of alcohol and other drugs at the time. Browne failed to see the traffic light and proceeded through the junction of Redcliffe Square and Redcliffe Gardens, colliding with a parked truck. It is said that he swerved to save his girlfriend the blunt of the impact. He died of his injuries the following day. Some conspiracy theorists think that Paul is actually Tara Browne with plastic surgery. Clues and evidence. Let's start with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album. Released in 1967, it is often cited as containing hidden clues about McCartney's supposed death. For one, John Lennon actually wrote about a man who blew his mind out in a car. Many people believe that this is McCartney's car crash and he lost his life, but it actually refers to Tara Browne's death. John Lennon was at his Kenwood home and he had a newspaper propped up on his upright piano. He noticed two stories, one of which was about the Guinness heir who killed himself in a car. The artwork on the cover photo shows the Beatles assuming a new identity and laying to rest their earlier image as the Fab Four. Some interpret this as representing Paul's burial and the end of the Beatles as they had known them. Paul is facing the camera as though he is being supported by his bandmates standing at his side. While the rest of the Beatles are holding brass band instruments, Paul's cor anglais is black, symbolizing death, and wooden, symbolizing a coffin. A hand is over Paul's head as though he's being blessed by a priest. Some went even further to find hidden messages. Some fans believe that using a mirror to bisect the phrase "Lonely Hearts" on the drum of the Sgt. Pepper's album cover reveals the message, "I 1-6 he die." I 1-6 is a direct reference to the supposed car crash date, and he refers to Paul, as the diamond that points directly to McCartney confirms die. McCartney also wore an arm patch that read OPD. It's the abbreviation for officially pronounced dead. He's the only uniform that has this. But it was later said by McCartney that it meant Ontario Police Department. He got this at one of his tours and he decided to use it. The White Album contained a mysterious backward message. In the track Revolution No. 9, it said, "Turn me on, dead man." The Abbey Road album cover sparked significant speculation. Fans interpreted it as a funeral procession imagery. The iconic cover shows the Beatles walking across London's Abbey Road in a single file. Fans likened it to a funeral procession. John Lennon dressed in white symbolized the clergy. Ringo Starr dressed in black was seen as the undertaker. And George Harrison in work clothes was the gravedigger. Paul McCartney stood out with several particularities. Some cultures bury their dead without shoes, and McCartney's bare feet hinted at this. McCartney held a cigarette in his right hand despite being left-handed. A Volkswagen Beetle, license plate LMW28If. Conspiracists claimed it meant that McCartney would have been 28 if he were alive, although he would have actually only been 27. The surviving Beatles allegedly decided to continue without revealing McCartney's death to spare the fans from grief. They supposedly hired a body double to replace him. Clues were subtly woven into their music and album covers. The phenomenon became an international sensation by October 1969. In November 1969, Life magazine published an interview with McCartney which dampened these rumors. The Paul is Dead conspiracy theory was analyzed in sociology, psychology, and communications during the 1970s. The album Paul is Live by Paul McCartney is indeed a playful response to the infamous Paul is Dead rumors. Released in 1993, the album's title and cover art are filled with references that debunk the conspiracy theory. The album cover is a digitally manipulated version of the iconic Abbey Road cover, which was a major source of the Paul is Dead rumors. On the Paul is Dead live cover, McCartney is seen crossing Abbey Road again, but this time he's wearing shoes and leading with his left foot. He's out of step with the others on the original Abbey Road cover. Moreover, the license plate of the Volkswagen Beetle in the background, which originally read LMW28If and was misinterpreted as a clue to McCartney's supposed death, is changed to 51 is on the Paul is Live cover. This indicates that McCartney was alive and 51 years old at the time. What did John Lennon have to say about this? John Lennon was quite vocal about his thoughts on the Paul is Dead rumors. In an interview, he expressed his frustrations, calling it the most stupid rumor I've ever heard. He denied the existence of the hidden messages in Beatles songs and any symbolism on the band's album's covers. Speaking to a Detroit radio station about the theory, Lennon said,
John Lennon, there is no doubt in your mind about the fate of Paul McCartney.
No, it's a joke, isn't it? I mean, Paul isn't dead, and if he was, we would have told you, We'd be the first to know.
So that's it.
He's got a baby. He's recording music for Ringo's film and producing Mary Hopkins, so he's very much alive.
Well, how did the rumors affect both of you at this point?
It's a joke to us. It's just a joke.
It's so hard to believe that something like this would be going on, similar to like a James Dean thing.
I can't understand it, because I can understand the James Dean kind of, he still lived, crippled, but won't come out, I mean, there's some kind of idea you could guess, well, maybe.
Yeah.
But Paul McCartney couldn't die without the world knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
The same as he couldn't get married without the world knowing it. It's impossible. He can't go on holiday without the world knowing it. How could he die without everybody knowing it?
Paul McCartney is in England now. Is he at home, or is he on a holiday, or what, John?
He's not on holiday. He's working. He's recording a group called the Ivies, but doing some background music for Ringo's film, The Magic Christian. Mm-hmm. And I want to be plugging my own stuff, not Paul, so come on, let's get going.
John, let's go back to talking about the music of the early days, and if you'll permit me to go and address ourselves back to this Paul McCartney rumor and death, if you will. As a matter of fact, let's talk all about this symbolism that's going down in these albums, and address ourselves also to the possibility of death and what you recognize in these albums.
Well, I tell you, I'm not aware of any of them, you see. I only read about them this morning in the paper, and I can't remember them. Something about Sgt. Pepper album cover and Abbey Road album cover.
Yeah.
I don't see the connection, or how Paul could have been dead. We made Sgt. Pepper 4 years ago,
John, I understand the cover for Cold Turkey is... we might consider that to be symbolic if we get into it.
This is the cover for Cold Turkey, right? And this is the advert we're using. Now, it's two skulls, which is what are they called? X-rays that were taken of us in hospital after we had a car crash. Now, by the time this gets to America and the Deep South, and the DJ gets it, he'll say, here it is, finally, it's Paul McCartney's skull. You know, but it's me and Yoko, actually, and I'm using it to advertise our latest record as the sleeve cover. But when you read that into it, by the time it's got to New Orleans and the DJ's looking for something to talk about, he'll say that this is a sign of death and that Paul is gone, or John and Yoko are dead, you know.
But what about the line on the Sgt. Pepper, I Will Bury You?
On Sgt. Pepper, the same as the obscenity that was meant to be on a loop at the end of Sgt. Pepper didn't exist.
John, I find it hard to believe that some people are supporting this rumor that's going around here that if you play some of your records backwards, there are some messages to it, and people can hear these. What do you have to say about the backward movement of these records?
Sure, if you play anything backwards, you're going to get a different connotation, because it's backwards. I have no idea what Beatles records sound like backwards. I never play them backwards.
In other words, you're saying there really is no death wish or any death moment in all these Beatle records?
The connection besides somebody thinks Paul's dead.
Could some of these things have been like a death rumor to Paul's death back there in 1966?
Well, how did we take the photograph for Abbey Road with me with a beard and looking as I do today, and Paul looking as he does today, walking across the road, when he'd been dead since Pepper? What did we do? Stuff him and shave him? You know, or what? How could we do it? I don't understand what it's about at all, you know. Paul isn't dead. We don't often sing or refer to death, I don't think so. And I don't...
What about the Abbey Road thing, John, where the bare feet of Paul McCartney sort of would indicate death to some?
That's the first time I've ever heard of it, you know. I mean, so what? I mean, Paul walked barefoot across the road because Paul's idea of being different is to look almost straight, but just have his ear painted blue, you know, something a little subtle. He liked to go, when we did press conferences, we all were a bit like that. We used to go on stage with just, say, one polythene bag on one foot, and nobody might notice it, just us would be laughing. So for Paul, he decided to be barefoot that day, walking across the road. But when he first glanced at the album, it looked like the four Beatles or whoever walking across fully dressed. But that's his little gimmick, that's all. Yeah, I didn't even notice till I got the album. I didn't notice on the day he was barefoot. We were just wishing the photographer would hurry up, and it's getting too many people are hanging around. It's going to spoil the shot, and let's get out of here. We're meant to be recording, not posing for Beatle pictures, you know. That's all we were thinking. And I was muttering, come on, hurry up now, keep in step. And all that, you know. And they said I was wearing a white religious suit, you know. So, I mean, did Humphrey Bogart wear a white religious suit? All I've got is a nice Humphrey Bogart suit, you know. What's religious about it? They said George was dressed as an undertaker, and rubbish. And Ringo was something else. You know, it's just insanity, but great plug for Abbey Road.
It's just coincidence that you dress the way we do on your album covers.
What motivates you to wear what you wore today? Now, as your station controller said, we need a publicity handout of all the DJs on the program, on the radio. You decide that morning what to wear for the photograph. I decided to wear a white suit, and we all decided individually what to wear for that day for the photograph. So,
in essence, John, what you're saying about the Beatle greatness, and it is great.
Thank you.
In essence, because of this greatness, John, that the Beatles themselves have become the essence of this great rumor.
Yeah, it's just all that mysticism, like James Dean is still alive in a chair somewhere, and that Bob Dylan had died. I mean, but you can understand the Dylan rumor a bit more, because he had that big crash and nobody knew where he was, you know. It's all that intellectualized, you know, looking for hidden meanings. You know, it's just gone crazy, that's all.
John, has this really affected you mentally, physically? The same with Yoko Ono. How has this affected you?
It's water off a duck's back, you know. It's just the most stupid rumor I've ever heard. It sounds like the same kind of guy that blew up my Christ remark, where the remark had been out for 6 months in England before anybody had said anything about it, and this guy blew it up.
John Lennon and Yoko Ono from London.
So it's safe to say that John Lennon strongly dismissed these rumors about Paul McCartney's supposed death. Paul McCartney has addressed the Paul is dead rumors on several occasions. Here are some of his responses. In response to the continuous fascination of the conspiracy theories, McCartney once said, "I'm alive and well and concerned about the rumors of my death. But if I were dead, I would be the last to know." He firmly denied rumors, stating, "If the conclusion you reach is that I'm dead, then you're wrong, because I'm alive and living in Scotland. Addressing these outrageous rumors, McCartney advised, "The people who are making up these rumors should look to themselves for a little more. There's not enough time in life. They should worry about themselves instead of worrying whether I'm dead or not." He also famously said, "The rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated." So it's clear that Paul McCartney has consistently dismissed the rumors about his supposed death. He maintains a sense of humor about the situation while also expressing frustration at the persistence of each baseless speculation. The Paul is dead theory is a fascinating rabbit hole to explore, filled with intricate details and cryptic clues that can captivate the imagination. So if you're a Beatles fan like me, it's likely that you have fallen down this rabbit hole too, at least for a short time. It's kind of hard not to do. In 2024, there's a lot of people who believe in this and spend so much time trying to prove this agenda. I myself, being a huge Paul McCartney fan, has listened to podcasts, YouTube videos, and books trying to convince myself that this theory could be true, or at least have good merit. All the time I kept waiting for this aha moment, that one piece of evidence that would throw me through the door into a believer, but it never happened. In fact, it's always pushed me further away, making me find evidence that Paul is the same person. My thing is, there's so many things that would have had to happen for it to be possible, and it's extreme. Let's talk about keeping quiet. The mountain of people that would have had to keep quiet is astronomical. Colleagues, family, and the Beatles themselves. No one would ever be able to speak the truth. John Lennon alone would have said something. He was under the influence of heroin in the late 1960s, and he had a I don't give a fuck attitude. He would have spilled the secret, even if death loomed above him. Jane Asher, his live-in girlfriend at the time, she would have left much earlier than when she did. And then there's his whole family, and it's a large one at that. Somebody would have said something. Let's talk about plastic surgery. Plastic surgery. The amount of plastic surgery it would have taken to change all these things to make this person look exactly like Paul McCartney, or at least close to it, would have been significant. It's 2024, and even people who can spend millions of dollars don't get the results that supposedly happened to Paul. He would have been out of the public eye forever to heal with all the major work done. And we're not talking about when he went to Scotland in 1969. We're talking about 1966. So you tell me, his offspring. You may say Paul's children do not look like him, and overall, that may or may not be true. James does have his eyes, but his youngest daughter, Beatrice, has a striking resemblance to him. Here's a few photos just to show you. And this is not the Paul from the 1970s, or even 1966 or above. This is early Paul, the quote-unquote real Paul. And lastly, but somewhat most importantly, his talent, mannerisms, and he's left-handed. Most people are not left-handed. They had to take a guy and teach him how to be left-handed. He had to have an extreme musical talent, sing, play multiple instruments, and have the same mannerisms as Paul. And when we talk about mannerisms, I'm talking about the way he holds his guitar, the way he strums, the way he holds his pick, the way he laughs, the way he shakes his head, just the way he moves. It's exactly the same. I mean, take a look at these. This is something that's not learned overnight. These are something instilled inside of you. You instinctively do these things. They're not just something that can be learned. So despite the allure of this captivating narrative, it's essential to remember that it is just a narrative. Both Paul McCartney and his bandmates and many more people have repeatedly and categorically denied these rumors. McCartney is very much alive and continues to make music, proving that while the theory is an interesting diversion, it is ultimately not rooted in reality.